back to another video here on my channel. If you guys are old and you guys are coming back for another video, thank you guys so much for sticking around. I love interacting with you guys and just being with you guys in the comments. It means so much to me that you guys are sticking around. If you guys are new here, welcome. My name is Danny and this is my channel, and you guys will see lots of mommy / lifestyle stuff here on my channel. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Today I have another coffee chat video. I've done 1 or 2 of these on my channel. I think 1 actually. I think I filmed 2, but the other one I just didn't upload. But I like to do these kinds of videos. I like to be casual, sit down, chill with you guys. I literally just got out of the shower, as you guys can tell. I like doing these kinds of videos like this. I'm talking about real life topics when I do these types of videos, and I like to be a little bit more relatable. And for me, it is hard to get up and get dressed and ready and everything like that for just a casual sit down video. Sometimes I will, but with time and just energy and motivation to do that, this is real life, so this is how I'm coming to you guys. I hope you guys find it relatable. Clink. Cheers. So if you guys have been around for a while, I have talked about breastfeeding here and there, mainly just like in vlogs and just like small clips. I think I have 1 video designated to breastfeeding, maybe, I can't remember. But today I'm going to talk to you about basically like my breastfeeding journey, and I'm going to give you guys a couple of tips if you guys are new moms or you're going to be new moms and you guys want tips on breastfeeding or tips on how to help if you're already breastfeeding. This is going to be the video for you, so let's go ahead and jump into it. I probably should have put a little bit of makeup on because my features are very bland. So I'm just going to start by telling you guys that my son Griffin is still breastfed. He is not like exclusively breastfed. He obviously has like table food and water and all that jazz, but he does still breastfeed every morning. There may be like 1 time a month that he doesn't breastfeed in the morning, and it's random. But I feel like there's gonna be so much controversy down in the comments. That's okay. This needs to be talked about. Breastfeeding is normal, people. It's so normal. It's literally what your boobs are meant for. So Griffin is 22, almost 22 months old. He'll be 22 months old at the end of this month, July, August, September. Yeah, 22 months old at the end of July. So I have been breastfeeding him obviously since day 1, and I actually was going to wean him after a year. But I started to wean him and then like sleep issues happened. So basically what I did was wean him after a year, but I weaned him to where he was only breastfeeding early in the morning. That way I could nurse him back to sleep. And that worked for us, and it still works for us. There are sometimes, there's more times than not that he wakes up really early in the morning, and I just can't get up that early. Like, I'm just gonna be real with you guys, I just can't get up that early. So I will either nurse him back to sleep, or I'll nurse him to where I can just like kind of rest there for like a half an hour or whatever. I'm hoping to wean him at his, like around his 2nd birthday, which is coming up here in September. But if it doesn't happen right away at his 2nd birthday, it's not like a big deal to me. Breastfeeding is meant to nourish your baby. So 2-year-olds obviously don't have the immune system of a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, or a 5-year-old. So another time that I would breastfeed, even after I started weaning at 12 months, is if Griffin is sick. Your body makes the antibodies that your child needs given what their immune system looks like at the time. If it's compromised, your body is going to make the antibodies that your baby needs. I just said that, but I'm trying to figure out another way to tell you guys what I'm saying. So when you breastfeed, some of your baby's saliva goes back into your breast, and then your body makes the kind of breast milk that your baby needs at that given time. So if your baby is sick and her immune system or his immune system is compromised, your body is going to give off exactly what your baby needs at that exact time to nourish your baby and help him or her get better. So that is another reason I still breastfeed right now, because there's only so much medicine and stuff that your baby can take or your toddler can take at this age. So why not give your baby exactly what your baby needs to get well if they are not feeling well, or just extra vitamins or whatever. That is another reason that I will breastfeed outside of that early morning time. I have a feeling there's going to be people on here, or maybe they won't comment, but they'll just watch and be like, oh my gosh, she's breastfeeding her almost 2-year-old, or she's gonna breastfeed until after her baby's 2. That is okay, that is. And that is exactly why I'm putting this video out there. I used to be that person. You guys, I used to be the person that would like, I wouldn't comment on people's videos because I personally feel like if you don't have anything nice to say, just keep it shut. I used to be the kind of person who would judge a person, not like outwardly, but in my mind I would be like, oh my gosh, isn't that kid a little old to be breastfeeding? Like a long time ago, this would be like before I had Mason, I would be like, that baby is way too old to be breastfeeding. Like, my baby's gonna be on table food at this age, and they won't be latched to a boob. They're way too old if they can talk, if they can walk, blah, 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 blah. The whole spiel, that was me, you guys. And actually, I have a 9-year-old, Mason, and I did breastfeed him, but I was not planning to breastfeed him. I only breastfed him for like 5 weeks, and I was not comfortable with breastfeeding at that time. That's why I was not planning to. Up until the day that I had him, I was not planning to breastfeed. And then my mom was like, just do it. Just do it for like a couple weeks or a couple days, or at least so that he can get colostrum. And, you know, if he needs antibodies and stuff like that, then that will help him. And so I was just like, okay, well, I didn't do any research on breastfeeding or anything like that at that time because, like I said, I wasn't planning to. So I really just kind of listened to whatever like the doctors were telling me, or the nurses were telling me, or my mom was telling me. And breastfeeding did not go well when I had Mason. That's why I only breastfed for 5 weeks. And when I started breastfeeding him, I was like, okay, well, this isn't horrible. I was also pumping with him. So I was supplementing with supplementing with formula, and I was breastfeeding. So something also to realize is that when you're new to breastfeeding and it's like your first time, it can be so overwhelming. Everything about it can be overwhelming. If you're pumping, it's overwhelming. If you're nursing, it's overwhelming. If you're supplementing with anything, it's overwhelming. If you're taking in everyone's advice, it's overwhelming. So that itself alone made it hard for me to continue breastfeeding, and the fact that I was supplementing with pumping and formula just kind of made my milk dry up on its own because he wasn't getting enough from me. He was getting majority of his nutrients from formula. That was the end of my journey with Mason. It did not last long. I am thankful that I got to breastfeed him a little bit, not as much as I would have liked, but that's okay. I think that fed is best. I probably should have said that at the beginning of this video. Somebody just walked by my window. I was on this pregnancy website, and you could read like pregnancy blogs, make friends with other pregnant moms, see pictures of nurseries and baby bumps and all that jazz. And you could post questions in like a peer group questionnaire, and I had posted like what was the best bottle or the best formula for your infant. This was like obviously before I had him, and someone posted back to me, you guys, I kid you not, they had posted back to me and said, I hope you get mastitis or whatever that, I think it's called mastitis, mastitis, I don't know, whatever that like illness is that you get if you have clogged milk ducts. And they said that they hope that I had that, and if I ended up breastfeeding, they hope my milk was sour so that my baby would reject me because I chose to bottle feed. You guys, me saying that I breastfed or telling you tips or anything like that is not me saying that you are a failure if you're bottle feeding, or you're a bad person if you're bottle feeding. If you are feeding your baby, I commend you because you are doing it right. Okay, I'm gonna move on from that rant, and I'm going to go into kind of like my journey with Griffin. I haven't had like a whole lot of struggle with breastfeeding him, but I did have a little bit of struggle. So in the hospital, like right after I had him, he latched right away. He did amazing. He was growing. We didn't have any issues. I would say right around the 2nd week that we were home is when my nipples kind of started hurting. And I want to say this is like, I'm going to actually throw my tips in like as I'm talking. I'm not going to like be like, okay, here's tip 1 and then like go through all of them. As I'm talking, I'm going to tell you my tips. So tip 1 for me going along with this storyline is that sometimes it is normal for your nipples to hurt when you're breastfeeding, especially when you're newly breastfeeding. Your nipples go through, well, I mean, obviously your nipples get touched and stuff, I'm guessing, but your nipples don't get that kind of action on the daily, all day. They don't get sucked on all day until you have your baby, until you're breastfeeding. And so when you are, obviously they're going to have to callus over and they're going to have to get used to that. So a little bit of pain is okay for you to have for a while. Now, if it's extended pain, if it lasts longer than, I would say, like a week, then, and your nipples are like bleeding or cracking or anything like that, like, I mean like bad cracking, your nipples are going to get a little cracky. But if they're bleeding or if they're like, you know, skin is coming off of them, that is when you need to consult someone about like a lactation specialist or about your baby's latch. That's when you should contact someone. It is completely normal to be in a little bit of pain when you first start nursing, so don't let a little bit of pain alarm you. That being said, so when I was in this pain, that is a time that I really wanted to give up nursing, and like I said, that was like at the 2-week mark. But that's also because you're a new mom and your hormones are going crazy. So just, I would say, at least in that particular moment, like that first getting used to breastfeeding and breastfeeding your newborn, don't give up because of that. And like I said, a little bit of pain is normal. A lot of pain and consistent pain is not normal. So if you can bear through it for like a couple of days up to a week and then it starts to go away, you're going to notice that that is normal pain. It drives me nuts when and now I'm not a lactation consultant, I can't tell you exactly, but coming from my experience, it drives me nuts when I hear people say that they were in pain, so they went to the lactation consultant and they told them this and this and this and this, and then they stopped breastfeeding because they kept being in pain. If you can make it past a week, you will notice that the pain starts to go away. It's not going to be there anymore. It will literally just feel numb. Like you're not really going to feel your baby there anymore because your nipples and your breasts are getting used to it. So that would be my first tip, is just not to ignore the pain, but if you can see past it for a week and it's not hindering you, you're not bleeding, then try that. So moving on with our breastfeeding journey, I would say around the 6-month mark, my milk supply started to drop, and that was because Griffin contracted influenza A. Of course he did. So my milk supply kind of started to drop pretty quick actually, and because he wasn't obviously like hungry or thirsty, even though I would try to breastfeed him, he just didn't want it at that week basically. And your milk supply is based off of what your baby's taking in at that given time. And so with him not taking it, my body was like, oh, okay, well, your baby doesn't need as much, so it's not going to produce as much. So my milk supply started dropping around 5 or 6 months. I can't remember what month that was that he got influenza A. So I had researched a bunch before even having Griffin about breastfeeding, and the number one tip is just keep trying to breastfeed. And if your baby's not taking it from your breast, then pump. That is how your milk supply is going to go up. And then I guess my next tip, that's a tip by the way, is pump or nurse as much as possible. If you notice a dip in your supply, that is the number one tip I can give you, is get your milk out. Like, just keep it flowing. If your baby's not taking it from you and you have the time to pump as much as possible, because that is going to signal to your body that it needs to make more milk. And I will say that along with that, I was taking mother's milk tea to just try and amplify that as well. It is nasty, you guys. I had to load mine up with honey. So I can't really say that mother's milk tea helped. I think brewer's yeast is what's in that, or fenugreek. No, I think it's fenugreek actually. So I can't really say if that actually helped or if it was just the fact that I was trying to constantly nurse and pump and just signal to my body that it needed to make more milk. But my supply did come back eventually, and it came back in full. So that would be my second tip to you, is if your milk supply is dropping, pump, nurse, and if you are comfortable taking some kind of like tea supplement or fenugreek or something like that, it doesn't hurt to try it, but I can't say significantly that it helped, because I was doing other things as well. I want to say really quick that these tips are not like in any order. I'm just giving them numbers so that you can see that I'm giving you these tips. But my third tip would be research. If you're watching this video after you've already started your breastfeeding journey, then obviously you can start your research now. But what I did is I started researching when we were trying to get pregnant and then during my pregnancy. That way I had a ton of information at my disposal before I even started breastfeeding. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, the doctors or lactation consultants and the nurses are going to give you all the information you need, that is true to an extent. It was very overwhelming for me to have with Mason and with Griffin. I literally had, with Griffin, you guys, I literally had 3 different people on the sides of me. I had a lactation consultant, a nurse, actually 2 nurses, a lactation consultant and 2 nurses telling me like, do this way. And they were telling me 3 different things, you guys. It was insane. Literally right in front of each other. They were like arguing over what would be the best for me to do. And so I took their information and their advice and I kept it. But what I did was do what's best for me. If I was comfortable and Griffin was comfortable, that is how I was nursing. That would actually probably be my top tip. Like I said, these are not in any order, but if I had to give you one top tip, it would be to do what's comfortable for you. If your baby is latched on, if they are nursing, they're getting fed, do what is comfortable for you. Because if you're not comfortable, it's not going to work. If you're not comfortable, your baby's not going to be comfortable. It's good to have all these tips and these advice from professionals, but when that was going on and those 3 were like arguing and I was like having to move all over because they were all telling me something different, I just told them, it's okay, I'll figure it out. Sometimes you have to speak up to like that to them, even though they're professionals. If you are not comfortable with what they are telling you, or you know your body best and it's working for you, your baby's gaining weight, you're nursing and it's working, then just do what is comfortable for you, your body, and your baby. I feel like I have to address this next too, along with being comfortable. I am not somebody who goes uncovered in public. Well, I don't nurse in public anymore anyways, but when I would nurse in public, I am not someone who would go uncovered. However, if you are someone who goes uncovered, more power to you. You have to do what is comfortable for you and your baby. I wouldn't like cover Griffin's face up completely, like I wouldn't cover his face, but I would just make it like his blanket or my cover or whatever to where it was like covering to here. I don't think there's anything wrong if you do cover up, and I don't think there's anything wrong if you don't. And if your baby is being fed, you're doing it right. So I guess my last and final tip would be, don't give up on your journey. If you're feeling discouraged, reach out to people. But at the same time, like I said, with like the lactation consultant and the nurses, you know, take people's advice, but don't always use it. Use what you're comfortable with. And if you're comfortable, your baby's comfortable. Again, I want to repeat this as much as possible. If you guys are both comfortable and your baby is successfully nursing, meaning that they're gaining weight and they're nursing latched on successfully and everything, then you're doing it right. If you are having trouble with latching, obviously research. If you feel comfortable talking to a lactation consultant, if you find a way that's comfortable for you and your baby, that's all that matters. And if you don't end up following through with what your breastfeeding goal was, or if you just feel discouraged and you feel like you can't do it anymore, it is okay. It is completely okay. I actually did not plan to breastfeed Griffin this long. It just kind of happened, and you know, with Mason's journey, it was the complete opposite. So if you breastfeed for 2 years, 1 year, a day, that is your journey and you did it. You successfully breastfed your baby. There is no amount of time that's right or wrong for breastfeeding. If you bottle fed your baby for a year, I don't really know how bottle feeding works after a year because I stopped bottles with Mason after a year, so, or however long it takes, you are doing it right. Fed is best, and I don't think anyone could argue that. If there are people who try to, but they are wrong. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Lately it's been weighing on my heart to just throw more helpful information out onto my channel rather than just not useless information, but things that people can benefit from. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. And if you guys are new here, again, welcome. My name is Danny, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please consider subscribing, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.